We welcome you to the first edition of Education Insights here on Thumb Coast TV, and it's a pleasure to welcome a good friend, Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools. Full disclosure, folks, for you, Theo and I have known each other a long time. We're very good friends.
We're BFFs. Let's face it, we're BFFs.
We worked together in Croswell, Lexington before I went to RISA and Theo went to Port Huron Schools. But I just wanted to get that out there as people, we know each other well. So
I think they'll figure that out
pretty quick. They'll
quick.
figure that out as well. So what I thought we'd do, Theo, in this first edition of Education Insights is give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about, I know about it, but probably I'll learn some things today too. When you and I met, you were principal at Croswell Lexington High School, but you're kind of a circuitous route to get to that job growing up in London, Ontario, but you had interesting background with your parents as far as dual citizenship in the U.S. and Canada. So tell us a little bit about that as we get rolling.
Well, yeah, and I'll remind you, when we met, you, I always tell people you were my best hire because you were hired as the superintendent. So I joke with people, right, a year after I got there, right. So that's a joke. But yeah, so my family is, as you know, from Greece. And my grandparents came through Ellis Island, you know, the American story, and actually got the opportunity a couple of years ago to bring my son there, and we walked right through where my grandfather 100 years before would have gone through, and the beds that, you know, they stayed in as they went through quarantine and all that. What an amazing, you know, my grandfather, a 14-year-old young man traveling from Greece alone on a ship for 25 days to the New World, and so that's, you know, that's my heritage into Canada. That my grandparents immigrated to Canada. A lot
of foreign folks who came through Ellis Island ended up then going through Canada as well. So that wasn't an unusual story.
Right. Amazing people. They start, you know, selling. My grandfather sold peanuts on the street. You know, started working in restaurants, owned a restaurant, bought 3, and, you know, just starting from nothing. Just an amazing story, and the privileges we gained from their hard work. You know, these guys were giants. And
you ended up in London, Ontario, which is where your parents lived, and then growing up there, and then went to, and we've joked about this, I would say the Harvard of Canada. You would say Harvard is the Western Ontario of London.
The University of Western Ontario is the strongest educational institution in North America, I think is what we joke about. Yeah, so I went to Western, a great school in London, just an hour from here, right? People forget that there's a huge university just an hour from here, and had a great experience there. Played football and track, and worked in a bar and restaurant there. And then when I graduated, I went to Duville College in New York to get my teaching certification. And then the plot thickens, I turned and went to South Carolina to start teaching 8th grade. You know, was my sweet spot, and went to 8th grade teaching. Funny, the Canadian was teaching American history in South Carolina.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that was quite I remember my interview down there. They said, "So tell me about your experience." I said, "Well, I had just returned from 6 months in Southeast Asia. I'm quite a traveler. I'd gotten around, and you know, I lived in Canada, traveled through Southeast Asia, Greek heritage. There were 2 jobs: American history and global studies." I said, "Okay, I'll take the job." I thought I was getting the global studies job. I walk in there and I'm teaching American history. So, but it was a great experience, and South Carolina was a lot of fun. Columbia, South Carolina. So I was there 9 years, and then the opportunity to move closer to my folks in Canada. In Port Huron came up with the principalship at Croswell Lexington, you know, just north of here. Great school district, as you know. You were an incredible leader there, and proud to work for you and call you friend up there. We did some amazing things up in.
Yes, we did. We sure did.
Lex.
Interestingly, you know, from your background to end up coming back and being an hour, you know, from your parents in London, what did you know about Port Huron area as you were growing up in London? Did you make trips over to Port Huron, or did you not know a lot about it?
Very important question, Kevin. Very important. The most, you know, as you will agree, the strongest attribute of Port Huron: chicken in the rough.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That was
yeah.
my experience with Port Huron.
Yep.
I knew nothing about Port Huron except for that Palms Crystal Bar and the amazing chicken there. So when I saw the opportunity to live here, I know that jogged my memory because we would travel across the border, just to get, that chicken. And that's a plug, for Chicken on the Rough at Palms Crystal Bar. No, but really, I knew nothing about it. Came here and met your predecessor, Chuck Smith, up there in Croslex, and just fell in love with the area, the lake, Port Huron, and the surrounding communities, and just fell in love with it and haven't looked back. It's been a great experience.
Now, you reminded me before we went on the air now that you're entering year 4. And so it was just mind-boggling to me because it seems like it was, it seems like it was maybe a year or two ago, but beginning year 4. But really, your road to the superintendency in Port Huron started back in 2014.
Correct.
And taking the job as kind of an assistant superintendent or as one of the directors with Jamie Kane in Port Huron back in 2014. So it's been 10 years with Port Huron Schools now.
Right. Yeah, when and you know this, I'm just speaking to the TV right now, but it was hard to leave Croswell Lexington. We had a great thing going, and we were close colleagues and close friends, but my family was here in Port Huron. My kids started in kindergarten in Port Huron, and my home was here. And at that point, my kids were getting old enough to start. I think Zach was just about to start middle school and do sports and band and all that kind of stuff and theater. And I'm like, I got to make a decision. I either need to move the kids to Croswell Lexington, which would have been great, or me move to Port Huron. It was important to me to be, as they started to get older, to be really part of their education as well. So the job turned up, and I haven't looked back. It's been great, and being a part of my kids' education as their, just in this, it could be as a teacher or a principal or assistant superintendent or now superintendent. It's just incredible being able to be a part of their lives in that way. And I got to tell you, Kev, a couple of months ago, I hugged my daughter on stage and handed her diploma, and I was fighting back the tears. I'm tough, I didn't. Don't worry, buddy. I didn't let you down.
May have seen one.
I didn't. Oh no, it was sweat or something. It wasn't.
You get something in your eye.
Yeah, but that was a pretty special moment for me and her, and we shared that second or two on stage. It was great.
Well, and for those who are watching, and I know you well, and we've been friends for a long time, but I know that you and I had conversations about why the move to Port Huron, and you really did follow through on that. I know you've been hyper involved in Zach and Anna's lives and in seeing them participate and getting the full scope of what Port Huron Schools had to offer. And I remember we talked about this, the opportunities that they were given in Port Huron Schools and that they took advantage of. Allowed you to be able to see them in multiple roles in the school district. Yeah,
and I'll just speak about my own kids, but this could be anybody's kids. They're just average. They're just average kids like everybody's. But here in Port Huron, my kids had opportunities. I think Anna took 9 advanced placement classes, and maybe Zach took 11 or something. They've both been on in our performing arts centers, in the bands, singing in the choirs. Leads in musicals, and sports-wise, Zach did some sports in middle school, and Anna was captain of the volleyball team. Just being able to all those opportunities, and then the different class offerings. They both took STEAM classes in our new STEAM labs, and just incredible opportunities that a big school district offers that they were able to get tastes of things. Zach's in engineering at Michigan. He wasn't at all interested in engineering until he took a test class in STEAM in one of our STEAM labs, and that kind of started him down the road of being an engineer. We give our kids, and any kids, not just mine, they're able to test and try new things and do things in a big school district, and you don't have to do. If you start something in 6th grade, you don't have to do it the whole time. Test a whole bunch of things and figure things out. But in my family, I was always finish what you start. If you start a season, you end the season. If you start something at the beginning of a school year, you're going to follow it through. But after that, reassess, make decisions. So I'm proud of Port Huron for being able to offer those things to kids.
Well, you and I have talked about that, and I think I'm almost quoting you on this, that it really is, a school system is really about offering opportunities for children, and then for each one finding a niche, finding something that they can latch onto, something that they're really interested in. Otherwise, they just are wallowing about in the school. But if you offer enough things and give them enough opportunities, they will land on something that they can, really dig into, and that becomes their niche.
And I talk to families all the time. Parents ask me for advice, and I know you share this. The one piece that comes out of my mouth first: get your kids involved, right? It's not just math class. Do something after school. It doesn't matter what.
Right.
We have a great robotics team, quiz bowl, student council, band, theater, the arts, sports. We have 19 varsity sports, I think, and something after school that gives them, the opportunity to be more involved with. That's what the kids that sometimes struggle are the ones that don't have that opportunity. They're just showing up at 7:30 and leaving at 2:30 and nothing else to go by. And maybe there's other opportunities out in the community. Those kids that are involved with the church, same thing, right? Just get involved with something other than school.
I really want to highlight the part of your job, your previous job before superintendent, because I think you had a really good opportunity to see all the buildings, because you really handled the implementation of what you were going to do when the bond passed, when you got the bond.
I'm getting the shakes, Kevin.
Yeah,
Can we not bring that up?
Taking you back
Don't bring up the bond or COVID, No, it was, I'll remind you, we passed in 2016, very close, a $106 million bond, the biggest bond ever for Port Huron schools. And it was really going to revolutionize our facilities in all, at that time, 17. Plus, we added a facility, the state-of-the-art early childhood center there on Garfield Road. And it was a 4-year process, and just an amazing transformation of facilities that were built for that older model. Kids sit in rows, and teacher talks and they write notes, and to a collaborative, high-tech environment where kids can learn collaboratively and take control of their own learning. And it started with facilities, and our team did an amazing job. But yeah, building a whole new complex, building new STEAM labs, building learning commons at every elementary and middle. And the best part was we rebuilt and basically tore down to the skeleton and rebuilt every single classroom. New windows, new HVAC, new flooring, and new furniture was so important to our learning. You go in those buildings now, sometimes I go through my phone and I'll see a picture of something from like 7 or 8 years ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have come so far just in facilities. It was an amazing process.
So as you look back, 10 years in Port Huron, with Port Huron Schools, was that really the defining moment where you saw, and not that Port Huron Schools was ever struggling mightily, but there was a time where Port Huron Schools didn't have the greatest feel from the community, and it just didn't seem like it was reaching its potential. Was that really kind of the defining moment of changing courses and going on a new course for Port Huron Schools?
I'm going to take a twist at that answer, because I think facilities are so important and the bond is so important. But the biggest change I've seen in Port Huron Schools, the biggest growth in the last 10 years, and I don't take credit for this, I'm part of this, was we are a trusting team right now. And if I could pinpoint it, it goes back to the bond. I remember if you'll remember as well, we went for a bond and it failed. And then we regrouped. We picked ourselves up, got the dust off us, and we came back after it. And the second time we went for that bond, our staff was 100% behind it. And I remember a letter being written to the newspaper with, if it wasn't all our teachers, it was pretty darn close to all of our teachers that signed it. And that to me was the defining moment in the time that I've been there, that we had a culture of we're all in this together. We're all in this for our kids together. And because you have the greatest buildings in the world, but if you don't have awesome teachers and awesome staff, It's useless, right? And we have incredible people. You go in the buildings right now in the summer, right? And you're going to find teachers prepping in those buildings right now. Now they're they're not dressed up nice like they usually are, but they're in there working. They probably have a couple of their kids sitting there working on some stuff for their classroom. Our custodians are working their butts off, and nutrition is getting ready to feed, and bus drivers are training. Our support staff, secretaries, those kinds of things are getting ready, and it's just a team approach, and that's it was always there, but it's stronger now than it's ever been.
Yeah. Seems like a good spot to break. When we come back, I want to talk about kind of the things that you really want to celebrate as you look back, and then what's in the future for Port Huron schools. We'll continue with Theo Kerhoulas on Education Insights here on Thumbcoast TV.
At Lake Huron Medical Center, our dedicated staff are committed to providing comprehensive care that meets your individual needs. We take time to listen to your concerns, understand your needs, and develop a customized treatment plan just for you. Trust in our expertise, experience our compassion, and let us be your partner in achieving optimal health. Visit us today and discover the Lake Huron difference.
Semco Energy Gas Company is dedicated to you with a focus on customer service and fuel today for a sustainable tomorrow. Semco Energy works hard to make your time with family and friends warm and cozy. Semco Energy Gas Company. Natural gas works for Michigan.
Welcome back to Education Insights. It's been a pleasure talking for the last 15 minutes or so with Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools. But Theo, we got a little bit of background. We talked about the bond, which kind of was a turning point, or a period at least, for Port Huron Schools. So let's just look at the last couple of years. In being in the job of superintendent when COVID was happening.
Oh, give me the shakes again.
Yeah, you and I went through those together in
Yes.
looking at 20 and 21, and then the federal response to that. There were a lot of dollars that kind of were filed into the local school districts, but you knew at the time that you had to spend those wisely, because if you use them to hire a bunch of staff, those dollars, there was an end date on those. So over the last couple of years, you've seen those dollars then, the spending of those end. So tell us about where you are budget-wise with Port Huron Schools.
Well, yeah. Let's just go back first when COVID hit. It was horrible, obviously, and some horrible things. First, of course, people lost their lives. That's terrible. But as far as learning, kids just when kids had to go home and learn from home, it's obviously was not ideal, and kids suffered from that. But if you can see a silver lining, three things that I think were so important. Number one, we were forced to get to know our kids more than we ever have, and our families. We were zooming into we knew their dog's name, their little sister's name, where they lived, and when our staff were bringing food to some kids' homes or dropping off curriculum and stuff, we built relationships with families, and they learned what our teachers and staff do every day, and that's my hope is that we can keep those relationships now that we're out of that COVID. But that was such a positive thing. And the second thing was watching our teachers change from basically overnight into having to work with computers. Some of them were great, some of them were just learning, but we all had to learn how to teach virtually and through computers and different resources and connect with kids differently, and it was just an amazing time to see our staff step up, and our staff stepped up, and I was so proud of them. The whole during we'd get curveballs thrown at us from the disease, from the government, from and our team. I mean, they just stepped up, and they did a great job during that time. But then, as the recovery starts, like you said, the federal government gives some much needed money to recovery, and I was really proud of how we intentionally use those dollars. We knew that, and it's September 24, it's coming up. Those dollars have to be spent. And we're talking, for Port Huron Schools, it's $40 million over the course of, those dollars had to be spent by September 24th, and they were gone. And I think some districts, not ours, felt, they say it's going to be gone, but it's not going to be gone. you have to budget accordingly and do things thinking that it's going to be gone, because guess what? It's gone. So we implemented programs that we knew were going to be expire in September 24th. We replaced environmental things like boilers. You know how expensive school boilers are. Unbelievable.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
If not, for the high schools, those are millions.
Yeah.
And we replaced them all, right? We refreshed libraries because when the kids went home, we sent, thousands and thousands of books home with kids. And guess what? Thousands and thousands of books didn't come home. And that's okay, But we had those dollars. We were able to spend that on refreshing libraries. And we did that. We modernized our resources for our kids. We spent some things on personnel. There was needs. We had to lower some class sizes. We had to hire nurses and some things like that we needed to get us to recover from COVID. We're not all the way there yet, but man, we've done a really nice job with that. But every one of those social workers, nurses, lower class sizes, things that we hired, we knew, and it was on the job description, that expires the end of last year. So everybody knew that, and we're big enough that we don't have to lay people off. We do that through attrition. We have enough people that retire and things like that. There's other districts, as you well know, that they put in programs and hired people, and all of a sudden now they're in a
The money's
bad
not
spot.
there to support it. The money is not there now.
So they're laying off,
that.
50, 100 staff and things like that. And we financially and fiscally made really good decisions. Really proud of our Board of Education as well for going down that route with us. And we're in a really good position financially, even with, and I don't know if you want to talk about the budget that just came out of Lansing, but we were expecting I'll tell you the good and the bad, right? Like let's be, so we were expecting per student $241 increase. That's what most districts in the state budgeted for, and that didn't come. But they also reduced our expenditures for retirement. So they didn't give us extra dollars, but they didn't ask us to spend as much. So in the long run, we are going to be up probably about $500,000 at the end of it when you look at it that way. So that's all fine. We're good. But the one thing that this new budget did was it took school safety dollars and mental health, which was about an allocation, I think $325 million for the state, and they took it down to $29 million, and that really hurts us. We're okay for 1 year. We always, for those kinds of grants, we have carryover, so we're able to support what we do for one more year. But my job, for this whole year is going to be to trumpet that in Lansing to get those dollars back, because, school's changed, as you know. We have school resource officers. We have 5 in our district, full-time police officers, social workers, mental health, things like that. Those are things that weren't in schools years ago or not at the level they are now, and we got to find ways to pay for that. So we're okay for a year. I think some districts aren't. They're laying off. Now's not the time to be laying off a school resource officer or a nurse or a social worker. So we're not, but we may have to in a year from now. So I need to be in Lansing lobbying for that and using our organizations to help do that. So that's my task. That's one of my roles. I know our board supports that 100%. So I'll be saying that a lot in public over the next 6 or 8 months, and hopefully that'll be back in the budget a year from now.
Well, it's a different world in 2024, 2025 than it was even 3 or 4 years ago, but certainly 10 years ago when you started the job in Port Huron. So the things that you're talking about as far as, we can talk about physical fitness all you want. Mm-hmm. It's the mental fitness that is so important in today's world. I mean, it's a tough world today.
Right.
There's a lot going on out there. If you want to try to push the news aside, but it's tough to. But the kids are not immune from hearing what's going on around them and the struggling families now. So I think more than ever, as you mentioned, those dollars are going to be critical to the future of educating students. You and I have talked about this. Tough to educate a student who, first of all, is hungry. Mm-hmm. Secondly, is coming from a very difficult situation or home life. And third, who needs mental help, who needs somebody to be able to talk to. to be able to get on with life, because life happens, and if we're naive enough to think it doesn't impact the classroom or the child's ability to learn, woe is us, frankly. So that's huge.
You know, one thing that I'll just give you a nice metric on that. I do these things called voice sessions, and I go out to the schools once or twice a year, and we meet with 10, 15 kids. And it's just a time for them to tell the superintendent what's working and what's not. Nice thing for me, I get to meet the kids and get to hang out with the kids a little bit. We have pizza. You know, if you bring pizza, they will come.
It's a good meeting.
Right. And I don't see any pizza here. You invited me here, and I'm like, so we have an incredible alternative ed called Phoenix, and we have about 100, 125 kids in alternative ed. It's the secondary level. It's at the high school level. And you know, back in the day when you were a principal and I was a principal, alternative ed was in some ways was kind of for those kids who maybe had some issues with behavior or with the law or whatever. But what I've noticed over the last decade of doing these voice sessions and it's those kids have some anxiety. Those kids, it's tough to be in the traditional place for them. They find a home in our Phoenix Academy, and it's just they weren't being successful in the traditional thing, in the traditional school environment. But they come here and they find a different kind of environment that lends to their issues with anxiety and things like that. And it was so interesting talking to those kids, and they're very open about it. It's not like any of those things are a secret to them. They want you to know, hey, listen, Mr. Kerhoulas, in a regular classroom, I wouldn't come to school. I'd have chronic absentee because I was so, just not feeling safe there and anxious and things like that. And now here, they can, and that's the thing. You want to talk about the biggest thing hurting schools right now. Attendance. We have, since COVID, and it's not just, of course, Port Huron, it's everywhere, significant attendance issues. And if we can't get kids to school, we can't teach them. So that's one of our goals, was our goal our last 2 years and in the future as well, is trying to get a hold of this chronic absenteeism. And it's a societal thing. It's something we need to work, with I'm also an employer, right? We're I've got a $120 million budget, and I think the third or fourth largest employer in the county. And adult attendance is an issue as an employer. Ours is pretty good. Like, we do a pretty good job with our staff, but I talk to colleagues in other businesses, and they can't get people to come to work. Mm-hmm. And so it's a societal thing that we need to conquer, this absentee thing.
So let's take a look at the future. What are, if you could name one or two or three kind of hot button things that you're really looking to implement or looking to morph or change or enhance as you look to the next year or two in Port Huron schools?
Well, I think one huge thing and it goes back to some of those COVID dollars, is we were able to refresh curriculum as well, not just libraries, but curriculum. There were like science, middle school science, and elementary math and things like that. Some of these things hadn't been refreshed in over a decade, and we were able to use that for funds that we now have K-12 curriculum that has been refreshed across the board, and even more importantly, as you know, as an educator, aligned. Yeah. Right? In the past, they might have had a middle school curriculum that was 15 years old and a high school one that was 5. Now we've got vertically aligned curriculum in basically our entire cores, and I'm really looking forward to professionally developing our teachers on how to use it. And once they implement it, take some time to implement new things, but seeing the results from that. And we're already seeing some preliminary results. Last year, every school at Port Huron Schools grew on the academic index. And that was, we don't track that, so I don't know, but as long as I've been here, every single school go in the right direction. Super proud of our teachers and our kids for doing that. Kids aren't a test, I'm not a big test guy, but still important. Still, we're here for academics, and every single one go in the right way.
You offer things because of your size and because of your, I think, vision that other schools in the county or around don't offer. The opportunity to take college classes for students in high school. So let's talk a little bit about the things that you're proud of that you offer to your own kids,
Sure.
and then to the kids of Port Huron schools that will continue.
Yeah, at that secondary level, I don't have a number for last year, but the year before, we awarded, and I'll talk about how this works, but 3,400 college credits. And this comes in three different ways, right? One is...
I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
3,400 credits. Yeah. That's worthy of kind of highlighting there.
Yeah. Just imagine the dollar amount to that, right? A college credit is depends where it is, but is it $200 an hour, a college credit? And that's money that our families did not have to pay as their kids go to college. I know as a father, my Anna's just about to start, but my son's been at Michigan for a few years now, and those classes were applied to, and I didn't have to pay for it or he didn't have to pay for it. So how does that work? So it's three different ways. One is dual enrollment. So we have a partnership with SC4, and our kids can take a class at SC4, and we pay for it through the school district funding, and they travel up to SC4, take the class, and gives them a taste of college classes, and those credits are just like if they were attending SC4 or University of Michigan, Michigan State, or whatnot. They go right on their transcript, and it's done. We do a great job, with that. The other thing is, the second thing is advanced placement articulation. So these are when kids take from our teachers at Port Huron or Port Huron Northern an advanced placement class, AP Calc. Do you teach AP Calc?
Nope.
No.
AP History.
AP History, that's right.
Yeah.
I knew you were an AP something. And they take AP classes if they get a 3, 4, or 5 on the end of the year test. Each university handles it a little bit differently, but that counts as credit at that university. It articulates to a college class. So if you take history, AP U.S. history, and you get a 5, you're probably going to get 8 credit hours in history at Michigan State University.
I'll give you an example from my daughter Christy, who took AP Calc, and she went to Georgia Tech. They not only gave her a semester 3 credit hour, they gave her a semester 4 credit hour and a second semester 4 credit hours. So that AP Calc served for 8 credit hours at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
So that's how important AP classes are.
Right. And I also see it as, I always call it, taking back the senior year. When I was a senior, it was a long time ago. Not as long as you, buddy.
No,
Not as long as you, but almost. That senior year, you could kind of not blow it off, but you didn't have to take the most rigorous things in the world because there was nothing to push it. Now these kids, we offer this, and we also incentivize it with merit points to their GPA. They're lining up to take these classes. They want to take this rigorous class, and it's just awesome watching these kids. Now, some of them take too many. It's a bit stressful for them. We try to counsel them to be appropriate.
Find a balance, right?
Right. Because, man, I'd rather a kid be on stage in that band or out on that basketball court than taking, a 12th, AP class. But it is, it is what it is. But so there's definitely that stress there. But just an amazing thing. And then the third, and it's kind of unique to us, is we partner with the Blue Water Middle College. And back in our day, we started the early college at Croswell Lexington. A year later, Port Huron partnered with Blue Water Middle. So this is where, in your junior and senior years, students can take half of their classes at the college and go towards in an additional year, in the 13th year, go towards their associate's degree. So really this saves an entire year of their college experience. It's completely free, and they walk out with an associate's degree, a well-respected associate's degree from SC4 that can transfer to any school in Michigan. And we've got, our numbers are way up. I working really closely with Matt Ruiz over there at SC4, or at Blue Water Middle College, and Pete Lacey at SC4, and our numbers in Port Huron are way up. A lot more kids are taking that opportunity and being really successful at it.
Well, you and I have, and I think this is something that we can both be proud of, started one of the first early colleges on the eastern side of Michigan back in like 2008, 2009. And then kind of counseled Dan DeGrow, who was superintendent of of St. Clair County, Risa at the time, the very next year, who called us and say, hey, how did you guys do that? And what, give us the thought process. And then Risa helped start that in St. Clair County. How ironic that coming full circle, I end up as superintendent of St. Clair County, Risa, years later, and you end up as Port Huron superintendent, both of us benefiting and our students benefiting from our council from Croswell, Lexington down to St. Clair County. That's one of the things that I think, looking back at my career, that I'm most proud of. And I know that you are, both at Croslex and with what Port Huron students are able to do.
Well, and I'm gonna tell people a story that
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I'm telling it. So for everyone out there, we were on the phone, a voice conference, because like we just said, there weren't any early colleges on this side of the state, and there was some hiccups along the way, and we were on a voice conference call with some people who were there was a roadblock, and the power went out. I'll remind you, we were doing work at Croswell, Lexington, and the power went out, and those people thought you were mad, and we hung up on them. And we got the green light the next day because the power went out and you hang up. Kevin Miller did not hang up on you. It was a power outage. But,
well, I think I just got a bit angry.
Passionate. I don't know what angry, Kevin. It was passionate. It was passionate.
It's like, what are you not understanding about what we're trying to do here? And then, boom, the power goes out, and miraculously, the very next day, we got our approval to start the early college. So it's always great to talk to you. What we'd like to do, Theo, with you is do this 2, 3, 4 times a year. Keep updated on what's happening for the folks who are watching at home, who they can get to know you a little bit, one, and then learn maybe some inside details about what are happening, the things that are happening within the school district. But it's always good to talk to you, my friend.
You too, my friend.
Okay. And that'll wrap up this inaugural edition of Education Insights. Thank you for watching here on Thumbcoast TV.